Well, hello and welcome to the Tao Manifesting Tarot. This is the in-depth reading. This is the tarot reading par excellence. It's the most critically thoughtful tarot reading on the internet, period. The Tao Manifesting tarot frequency, provides your destination. Human imagination equals human kryptonite. There are no fantasies, no rainbows, no unicorn imaging. It is reality in a time of genuine turmoil. I've done tarot for over 20 years. In that time, I found out it predicted nothing useful for me. It was actually, in many ways, a waste of time until I discovered tarot's real purpose, and that happens to be your potential, the science of your potential, the ability to manifest, the ability to create the kryptonite you create from your own head. You go from the inside out. You don't go from the outside in. You don't pay attention to smartphones, desktops, laptops, AI, none of that crap. Because when it's coming from the outside in, it actually makes you weaker, dumber, less imaginative. But when it comes from the inside going out into the world, that's a different story. It empowers you. So that's where I get the idea of potential. And along with that, the serious reading for serious times. I also take a look at numerology and astrology, big picture thinking, because numerology and astrology are the science of cycles. I've done those two things for 50 years, tarot for 20 years, tarot potential, numerology, astrology, psychology too, I guess. The science of cycles, within cycles, within cycles. History repeats. And the reason it does is because the energies in astrology and numerology repeat. Now, it is rare that they repeat exactly the same way. It's usually some multiple or form of the energy. For example, 250 years ago, America signed the Declaration of Independence. We had Pluto in one spot, Uranus in another spot. 250 years, because it takes Pluto 250 years to go around the solar system. Pluto, Uranus in the same spot. They were about 2 years ago. Look at what's happened to the country. Look at what's happened to the world. Plutonian energy. We're innovating. We're evolving. Uranus energy, revolution, evolution, revolution. That's where we are. But we're not exactly expressing it the same way. Very similarly, but we have to change just like we did in 1776. In fact, we are taking a look critically, potentially, at what we set up in 1776. And that's what makes it the same. That's what makes it powerful. Today's focus, now or never. You're familiar with what's going on in the world. People getting killed left and right. And you got to watch, because this could be a psyop. We're starting to kick up the shootings so that they can sell us on getting rid of the Second Amendment. That's a psyops. You do not give up the Second Amendment. The vast majority, 99.999999% of the people who I know who have guns would never think of shooting anybody. It's not what they use them for. Self-defense, yeah, but mostly for hunting. But what having the gun ability does is keeps the government a little bit honest. Not a whole bunch, but a little bit. So today's focus is now or never. You're going to get off your ass. You're going to do it. You're going to make yourself count. You're going to deal with the stuff that you got to deal with as a citizen of the United States and the world, or are you going to sit there like a dumbass? Like I said, this is not an easy reading. This is not one of those fairy tales kinds of readings. We don't do that stuff. This is a time for focused thought in a very dangerous time period, and we have to move now or never. Now or never. That's the thought today. But before I get into We'll take the first step into the reading. We will deal with the astrology, numerology, but first I want to remind you about my email, tao-tarot at proton.me, tao-tarot at proton.me. I had a whole bunch of emails. I've shrunk them down to one. I'm not part of the Gmail thing because I want to get out of the system, so proton.me for the moment works. Tao-tarot at proton.me. I don't care whether you like me, don't like me, doesn't make any difference. Yes, good, indifferent. Communicate with me. I will promise to communicate back with you. That's how it all works out. So we got that all lined up. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's get now to the astrology, numerology. September is the 9th month of the year. So this is a number 9 month. Those are endings, but this happens also to be universal 9 year. So September is a month where, like a snake, we're going to shed our skin. It's going to be very uncomfortable. It'll be very revealing, but extremely uncomfortable. But that's the point. September is very, very important. October, even a little bit more, because now we're back into a number 1 month again as we head into a number 1 year next year. Things are in motion, and that's why today the reading is now or never. Be in the here and now. We have to deal with now to move forward. And you're seeing how important it is. With this, the stories in the news, you see how important it is. This is not a time to step away and go, it's unpleasant. I don't want to deal with it. Nope, you got to deal with it. Because with the one coming up in November, that'll be a little tease to what's coming up in terms of a new season, a new session in January when we hit the universal number 1 month. So let's get to the second part of this. That's the astrology. I have been over the past few months, as I focus to next year, the 250th anniversary of the United States of America, July 4th, 2026, focusing on America, but through the lens of astrology. What are the energies? And we find that America really has been under the gun. It's been being attacked consistently by the global bankers. Primarily in the beginning by the Jew bankers from Europe, still continuing with the Jew bankers today. In fact, you see what's going on in Congress. Everybody can't wait to declare their American citizenship and their Israeli citizenship. If it were up to me, you have 2 citizenships, you got 24 hours to make a choice. You can't have both. If you cannot give them up, you will be treated as a traitor, and you know what they do to traitors. And at this point, if you have dual citizenship, you are a traitor to America, period. But that's what happened. The Jew bankers, in fact, 1803, Meyer Rothschild, the head of the Rothschild banking empire in 1803, said, I don't care what you do with the government. You can do whatever you want. You can have whatever you want, make whatever laws you want. I want the banks. I want the money. I want the control financially. And that's not an exact quote, but if you were to read the exact quote, you would see that that's exactly what he said. Give me the money. You can keep the rest. And even before we declared our independence from England, they had control of us because they set up something called the Bank of England, which had nothing to do with England whatsoever. It was part of a deal that they worked out with the King of England so that he could afford war. They got their Bank of England, and they literally took over England. And you see what kind of shape England is in because of it today. They tried to mess with the colonists. They set up the first Bank of America. They set up Wall Street. Wall Street held. Bank of America didn't. They tried again with the first Bank of America. It held for about a 20-year loan. Boom, it was done. Andrew Jackson said, no more. We're not doing this anymore. Abraham Lincoln said, we're not doing it. He said, yeah, I got a problem in the Civil War with the South, but the bigger problem is the Jew bankers in the North. William McKinley suffered. Of course, they did get eventually 1913 after they drowned opposition. These were very, very rich people who they had to drown because they didn't support the idea of a Federal Reserve, so they drowned them in the Titanic. After that, within a year, they had the Federal Reserve, and then immediately after that, they had The income tax, immediately after that, they had women working because, when you have women working, you double the income tax. Yeah, that's good to keep feeding the Fed money. And then, of course, we went to World War I, where they made even more money yet. By the time we got to World War II, which was simply an extension of World War I, they had things set up pretty well. And that takes us to where we are now, just after World War II, when, in my opinion, the United States of America turned dark, sick, twisted, evil. It was already being set up prior to World War II, but after World War II, they went full tilt. And that's what the 50s were all about. They talk about the 50s, and I was raised in that area. I'm a boomer. Oh, it was beautiful. It was a great time. Oh, we had all kinds of great stuff going on in the 50s. No, we didn't. 1950 to 1955, America was distracted. All this affluence, people were having jobs, people were buying homes, people had all the material stuff that they wanted, the comforts. They were doing well financially, but the government went underground. The government began to hide data in different places. They set up a group that could take any kind of invention and take it off the market, hide it to protect us. They also did other things in terms of political arranging and global arranging of power to hide it from us. The CIA, the FBI became militarized. All kinds of groups branched out of those. And it was all underground. But in the 1950s, we had Lucy and Desi. Everything was nice. No, it wasn't. Also, from 50 to 55, we got the genetic stuff, the DNA double helix. We unfolded that. We went, woo, we got it. We know how to do it. Polio vaccine also came out. And of course, on a brighter side, how about the first Corvette, huh? Yeah, I mean, that's kind of neat. But that just tells you what's going on with the times. The government went underground 1950, 55, through the 50s. They did terrible shit that we're now just finding out about, that have put us in this position that we find ourselves. You take a look at the astrology, Saturn, Neptune, Pluto, all very favorable. They had fire and air, lots of energy. The fly in the ointment was the planet Uranus. It was in Cancer. What they did basically in the 50s was they had a friendly message with an ulterior motive. That's what the government did. They lied to us, but they smiled as they lied. And we bought it. Hook, line, and sinker. Let's go to the meme for today. Here we have a guy saying, I've always wondered why the Holocaust was a major focus in school, yet we never learned about the 60 million Christians who died during the Bolshevik Revolution. Never talked about really what we did to the American Indians or anybody else. It was all Jews, 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 Holocaust, Holocaust, Holocaust. Because we were being set up. We were being told, not that that was a good thing. That's not my point. We didn't get the full message. We didn't get the full picture. You know how many Christians died in the Bolshevik Revolution in 1917? I've heard anywhere from 15 to 50 million, depending who you ask. What's up with that? So we are coming to a time when we had the blinders on in the 50s to a place where we're beginning to see, hopefully. Speaking of vision, how about this? Assassinated Japanese Prime Minister said, guess what? I'm not going to follow the World Economic Forum. I'm not going to force the vaccines. He's dead now. Assassinated. What do you think? A lot of that stuff going on these days, huh? Let's take a look at the tarot. Let's get to the meat of this reading. Tarot manifested reading energy. We got the Five of Pentacles. You see two people walking across or past what was on a church. You see it on the older cards. You could tell it was a church. The pentacles meant the lights were on. There was somebody in there. They could have. You see how poorly they're dressed. They're crippled. They're wearing very thin clothes and they're out in the winter, they could have just walked into the church. At the very least, they could have spent the night on a pew, which wouldn't have been 100% comfortable, but it would be warmer. Who knows? Maybe they'd even get a meal, maybe two meals, maybe a dinner and a breakfast. But they didn't consider themselves worthy. That's what we're suffering from right now. Poverty of the spirit. We're not worth it. Next card is a Ten of Wands, walking away from the bullshit, the beliefs. They told you this was important. You had to do this. You had to do this. You had to do this. You believed it. Now you're getting to the point where maybe you don't believe it anymore. People are starting to wake up. People are starting to walk away. And what's happening is magic. That's our final card, the Magician. Connecting with your potential. Yes, you are worth it. Quit the poverty of the spirit crap. Walk away from what they've told you. Believe in yourself. Trust yourself. Honor yourself. Connect with your potential. Remember in the beginning, I told you really it was now or never. I mean, it is now or never. Stand up for yourself or bend over and spread your cheeks. They're ready for you either way. It is your choice, and you can't put it on anybody else, not any longer. That's it for today. We're out of time. Thank you so much. Please like and subscribe. It is extremely important. They are locking that. Boy, the internet is getting sneaky. But you can tell by what's making the news these days that there's something going on behind the scenes. Take care of yourself now or never. Stand up now or never. You don't have any more time. And in the meantime, support us who are telling you the truth. Like and subscribe. Between now and the next time you and I get together and do this tarot thing, peace and blessings.